Faithfulness is the word.
My religion compels me, and I love it for it, to be against discrimination of any kind in our country.
Our rights come from nature and God, not from government.
All God asks of you is faithfulness, faithfulness, faithfulness.
Fighting for the family, standing for the church, laboring to return to a moral and biblically based culture.
This is the American Family Association at AFA Today.
And greetings, everyone. Fred Jackson sitting in for Kevin McCullough on this edition of AFA Today. Hope all is well with you so far on this day as we continue to work our way through the winter of 2014. Kevin, like many others, I think, coming down with a cold. And the way the weather has been, regardless of where you live in this country, it's been a tough winter so far. These temperatures up and down. And of course, if you live in the north, it's just basically been really, really cold where you are. And you're probably facing those first heating bills, the big heating bills of the winter. But I was trying to think this morning before I came into the studio, Groundhog Day is coming up really soon. And Puxatawny Phil, I guess it is, up there. I think it's in Pennsylvania. And most people are going to wait to see if he sees his shadow. You know, if you believe in that kind of thing. It's always kind of a fun thing anyway to find out whether there's going to be another 6 weeks of winter. And when that day does come, I'm sure people are going to be hoping that for sure, that if there is more winter to come, it'll only be 6 weeks. Because this has been a tough one, I'm sure, because of all that global warming out there, right? Hey, as I say, good to be with you today. We got a lot of news to deal with. Another busy day in Washington, some stories that you probably have not heard about. We're going to be dealing with those in a few moments. But I want to bring you some really good news to start off the program today. You may have heard us talking about here on American Family Radio about an upcoming debate at the Creation Museum. They're just south of the Cincinnati airport, a museum that is part of Ken Ham's Answers in Genesis ministry. Now, the debate is going to be between Ken Ham and Bill Nye. You probably may have heard of Bill Nye, the science guy, from that show, Bill Nye, the Science Guy TV program for children. Well, Bill Nye, the science guy, has become a very outspoken advocate of denouncing any thought of teaching creationism to our kids in our schools. And he has been treated like a rock star on campuses around the country in recent months. Kids line up to see him because he really, really does denounce the idea that creation, as we are taught in Scripture, as we are taught in our churches, is really just a fable. And so Ken Ham, knowing the popularity of Bill Nye, what he did was he invited Bill Nye to a debate. And that is going to take place at the Creation Museum on Tuesday, February 4th at 7 p.m. Now, here's the exciting news about all this. They put the tickets on sale. It's a 900-seat Legacy Hall there at the Creation Museum. They put the tickets on sale for this event. The tickets sold out in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, the tickets sold out. That's how much of a demand there is out there for this event. It is going to be exciting. Now, here's also the good news from today. The Creation Museum is offering this up. If you want to watch it, they're offering a live stream absolutely free that you're going to be able to watch this debate as it unfolds on that evening of February the 4th. That's coming up. It's a Tuesday, so just in a couple of weeks at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can go to www.debatelive.org, and you're going to be able to watch this debate. It's going to be fantastic. And hey, listen, I'm going to make a prediction right now. I'm going to make a prediction. Ken Ham is going to win this debate. And you know why? Because he has truth on his side. Ken Ham has truth on his side. And I tell you what, congratulations to Bill Nye for willing to accept the invitation, but also for Ken Ham to be willing to put these two gentlemen face to face with each other. Ken Ham is a brilliant guy, is brilliant in the way he can argue the case for creationism. Perhaps you've enjoyed going to the museum. Millions of people have already visited the museum. You may have had Ken Ham at your church. Listen to him on the radio. So he's a very familiar voice to defend creationism. But as I say, we as Christians believe what the Bible says about creation, that God, an all-omnipotent God, created this earth. He spoke it into existence. So this is going to be a fantastic event. Once again, 7 o'clock, February 4th, a Tuesday evening. And the Creation Museum is allowing you, if you're not going to be present, you weren't one of those where I was able to get a ticket in those 2 minutes, you're going to be able to watch this thing live, www.debatelive.org. Going to be a fantastic event, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about that as we get closer to that event. All right, news of the day from Washington. Here's an Associated Press story, just came in a few minutes ago. It says a person familiar with the issue of racial profiling says the Justice Department is likely to expand the definition of profiling to bar federal agents from considering religion, national origin, gender, and sexual orientation in their investigations. All right? So they're going to add all of that. Religion, national origin, gender, and sexual orientation in their investigation. Now, folks, the AP story goes on to say this. Civil rights groups have long complained that law enforcement agencies have singled out Muslims in counter-terrorism investigations and Latinos in immigration investigations. So if this is true, and a spokesman for the Justice Department, according to the AP, would either confirm or deny this morning, I guess they want Eric Holder to make the announcement himself. But stop and think for a moment. They've singled out Muslims in counterterrorism investigations. When is the last time that you heard somebody arrested with regards to a terrorism plot or a terrorism event whose last name was McPherson? I mean, that just doesn't happen. Whose last name was Smith? No, there is a reason why Muslims have been targeted. It is because virtually almost every act of terrorism that you can think of, especially in recent years, has been carried out by someone who would say that they are a Muslim or they have sympathy for Muslims. And that is why they have been investigated in places not only here in the United States, but around the world. They have gone to imams who have been known to make speeches advocating for terrorist acts. So the idea now that Eric Holder, the Attorney General Eric Holder, is going to dictate to investigating agencies that you cannot consider a person's religious background is basically, where is this going to leave these investigators? Now they got to go down a list before they can name someone a suspect of all of these things, of all of these barriers that are going to be put in place. Now, it's very interesting. As I say, in this morning, another story came out from London. British police say they've arrested 2 women in London on suspicion of terrorism offenses. Scotland Yard said officers arrested a 26-year-old woman at Heathrow Airport early Thursday as she was preparing to board a plane for Istanbul, Turkey, which is a Muslim country. So, folks, it's not because authorities want to target somebody because they're a member of a religion. It is because of the history that we have, the factual history, which points to the fact that pretty well 99.9% of the terrorism acts carried out in this country, whether it's Muslims on non-Muslims or Muslims against Muslims themselves. Look at what's going on in Iraq right now. Bombs exploding almost on a daily basis in Iraq, and that's mostly Muslims attacking Muslims. So to say that an investigating officer cannot even consider a person's religion, is just extremely naive. Not to mention the fact that how that will hinder likely investigations. Now, the other part of this, it mentions civil rights groups not only singling out Muslims for counterterrorism investigations, but Latinos in immigration investigations. Well, folks, statement of fact. The largest majority of people entering this country are, in fact, Latinos. They are coming across our southern borders. It is why the federal government is well, they tell us they are. They're working on securing the border more, building multi-million-dollar fence, etc., spending millions of dollars every year to secure that border. It is why news stories that you hear, usually involving illegal immigrants, coming across the border in California or Arizona or New Mexico. Those are just the facts. And in 99.9% of the cases, it happens to involve Latinos. That's the truth. And it's not because anybody is picking on Muslims with regards to terrorism investigations or Latinos. It is just the record that is in place. And yet our Attorney General, the Justice Department, now apparently going to add religion, national origin, gender, and sexual orientation to their investigations, telling their agents they cannot consider those factors in investigating such crimes. You just scratch your head sometimes, folks, and you say, okay, where is this taking us? And really the reality is, I think, folks, is that you've got an ideology that is beginning to trump and has been trumping reality. We have a government that is supposed to be and is tasked with protecting us from enemies. They are tasked with upholding federal laws in this country, and yet we have an ideology, a very left-wing ideology that is taking over that what is trumping the reality of crime going on, of terrorism being plotted against this country, of people entering the country illegally. You've got an ideology that's taking over that says, really, these people should not be held accountable for these things, and that we don't want to make anybody feel bad in the course of our investigations. That is what's happening. So the politically correct ideology is taking over what should be the priority, is to protect our country and to uphold the laws of this country. And so we're seeing this more and more. We're seeing it in the reports that have come out in recent days, confirming earlier reports with regards to Benghazi. The reports in recent days confirm that federal officials long have known from the beginning, in the case of Benghazi, back on September the 11th, 2012, federal officials knew that it had nothing to do, the protest that led to the death of Ambassador Stevens and 3 others, had absolutely nothing to do with a video critical of Islam. It had nothing to do with that. They were told the night of at the Pentagon it was a terrorist attack. Now, the administration, as you're well aware, tried to tell the American people, the president went to the Rose Garden the next day, basically telling the American people that this was a riot based on discontent with a video, when he had been told the night before that wasn't true. All of this is coming out. And now you have a Senate committee report that came out in just the last 24 hours that confirms that officials knew this was a terrorist attack. Yet you had the president and his people, in the wake of just a few weeks before the 2012 election, trying to tell people it was something else. 888-589-8840. Want to hear from you. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. Your turn to chime in on these issues and other things that you may want to talk about today. You're listening to Today's Issues. Fred Jackson sitting in for Kevin today. We'll be right back after the break.